Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome and welcome back to Cafe Oleh. My name is Jay. Here at Cafe Oleh with Nefesh, we go over the everyday Hebrew you need in Israel to succeed, whether that's reading and paying your bills, going grocery shopping and reading nutritional labels, keeping up with the news, striking up a conversation, flirting, dating, complaining, job interviewing, all the everyday things you do in your native language in your country of origin, but here in Israel in modern Hebrew. As always, we love to hear from you topics you'd like us to cover, whether we haven't done so, we haven't done it in the past, whether to add a few things. You can always be in touch with us with your questions and requests at hebrew@nbn.org.il. That's Hebrew at nbn.org.il. If you're joining us live on Zoom, you can write to us in the chat with any of your questions, comments, concerns, or requests. In the Q&A, we reserve for questions related to the class we're about to start only. Everything that's not relevant to this specific class to put in the chat. And we just ask if you're joining us live on Zoom to keep the personal chit chat to a minimum, as there's a lot of you and there's just me. You can also see all of our previous lessons up on youtube.com. Just go to youtube.com, obviously, type in Cafe Oleh. The very first entry in your search should be a truncated playlist. It'll say view full playlist. You'll see all of our previous lessons up there. We have, I think now over 130 previous lessons, over 20,000 views. You are welcome to not only watch any of our classes, including this one, which will be up in another day, on demand at your convenience. You can also leave us a note there. That does us, obviously, we read those notes as well. You can also click subscribe to the Nefesh channel, and you'll get updates when our classes go up there. So whether you can't join us live, you need to cut out in the middle, or you just want to see what we're up to, by all means, join us there on YouTube as well as here live on Zoom. With that, let's get started with today's class. So last week's class, we went over the entire holiday season that quickly approaches in just a matter of days. Not only the timing of everything, how we pronounce them in Israel as opposed to perhaps in diaspora communities, some of the major highlights, including greetings, and you got spreadsheets with all the small talk, all the information you need from everything from how to make plans if you don't have plans yet, or to invite someone to a holiday meal at any time during the holiday season, if not throughout the year, essentially, as well as a guide to small talk. We've done small talk several times here at Cafe Oleh, and in our Wednesday classes, Cafe Oleh Conversations. And last Wednesday, our participants got a chance to practice both inviting people to make plans with each other, as well as how to make small talk at the dinner table or at the holiday meal. All that information is there for you. So a lot of great information to review, not just ahead of the start of the holiday season this week, but in general, some great stuff to read, whether you go to services and need something else to read, or you just want to get yourself fluent in Hebrew as it should be. As I mentioned, this week we're going to do an important part of the New Year preparations. And then at the top of the hour, in addition to answering your questions, I'm going to talk about our next 2 weeks worth of classes. In that, obviously, because of the holidays, some days we will have class, some days we won't. So I'm going to go through at least the next few topics with you through the end of next week. Week by week is easier way to do it. If you also have any questions with regards to signage and things like that, just please remember it usually takes about a day or two to send out the email with the with the recorded class as well as the spreadsheet. So if you're not seeing it in your email, number one, you can always be in touch with us at the email I already mentioned. You can always find it on youtube.com. We promise you are not being hung out to dry. Also, always check your spam folders. A lot of you, it might be there. In fact, it was just in a different folder than it should be. With that, let's get started. Today's class is all about blessings, wishes, and yes, curses. Because this time of year, whether it's the Jewish New Year, which we're all about today, or a secular New Year where people make resolutions, certainly ahead of the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, we talk a lot about not just reflection on the year past, but also what we look forward to the year ahead. And a lot of the formulations we use at this time of year, we actually use throughout the year, whether it's making a toast at a regular evening at a bar or ahead of a company toast, let's say at the end of a week or the end of a quarter period, toasting to their success, or at any time we use the same formulations again and again to wish each other good things and also wish each other not so good things. And you're going to learn both today. And I'm going to show you a real-time application of what we're talking about today that just came out on TV and online about 2 days ago. It's a beautiful, brilliant, and yes, funny illustration of what we're going to cover tonight. So without further ado, let's get started with our vocabulary today. Screen. So as always, our spreadsheet has the Hebrew we're covering in the middle, the transliteration for English, American English friendly audience on the right-hand side, English on the left, any gender and notes on the left-hand side. But remember, number one, you're going to get a copy of this spreadsheet. You're welcome to cut and paste and copy or screenshot it, old school pen and paper. But I'm going to save you all, those of you who are already asking in the chat or the Q&A, where do I get this? I haven't gotten in the last few weeks. YouTube.com is your friend, folks. Go into the description of each video for the last 70 or so videos, and you'll see a link to download the spreadsheet. If you don't get this, you can always go back to YouTube. I promise we're getting you the spreadsheets. With that, let's get started. When we talk about blessings and wishes and curses, we need to know first what we're talking about. A blessing, a singular blessing, many of you already know this word, is bracha. Okay, bracha is one blessing. Whether you say resh as resh or resh, bracha, bracha, they all mean the same thing in Hebrew, a blessing. Again, we talked about this last week. We've talked about this multiple times in the past. The default emphasis in modern Hebrew is always on the last syllable. There are some exceptions to the rule, but the vast majority are on the last syllable. This is not a judgment on those of you who speak Hebrew with an accent based on your geographic and diasporic community. However, just keep that in mind. In modern Hebrew, the word is bracha. Okay, goes up at the end. Bracha, and the plural, brachot. Okay, wishes. Mish'alah is one wish, mish'alot, wishes. And finally, yes, it's included because not necessarily we're giving them, but they're out there, and it's the same formulation that we say them in Hebrew as we do just like in other languages. Klala is a curse, klalot, curses with a kuf. Equally, even though this isn't necessarily a Jewish or Israeli thing, you certainly hear this by virtue of Western culture, being a part of Israeli society as well. Achlatot. Achlatot is the everyday Hebrew word decisions. A decision is achlata. Achlatot are decisions, but they're also translated as resolutions, right? Again, resolutions isn't necessarily something you're going to hear on a regular basis, certainly ahead of Rosh Hashanah, if not the secular New Year. But for those, it's important that you know. One of the simplest ways we can express a blessing, a wish, or a curse simply by using a verb. Okay, and here you have some great ways to describe or to start off a wish, which is simply I something. Okay, so the easiest one for a blessing or a wish, I hope, right? In Hebrew, for male, ani mekaveh, female, ani mekava. Ani mekaveh, ani mekava. That's the verb, I hope, right? Another way to phrase it, I expect, ani mitzapeh, masculine, ani mitzapa, feminine. Ani sho'ef, I aspire. Ani sho'efet. Sho'efet for a female. Ani choshesh, I fear or I'm afraid. Ani chosheshet, female. Ani cholem al or ani cholemet al, I dream of or about. Okay, this is one very easy way to express a blessing, wish, or a curse is simply a regular sentence, right? A declarative sentence. I hope, I expect, I aspire, I fear, I dream. You probably know other verbs as well, but these are some great ones to frame it. Let's go through some specific um, blessings and curses we have as well. So one, you all know, this one is an oldie but a goodie. You'll hear it all the time. L'chaim. L'chaim means to life. It's the easiest one there is in that you'll hear it all the time, whether you're at a bar, whether you're at a company toast, whether you are at a dinner. Excuse me, you'll hear this one all the time. It's used all the time by anyone, regardless of their background, religious observance, old, young, whatever. L'chaim always holds up. Okay. Let's go through some other ones you probably heard and you didn't necessarily think that they were blessings or curses or wishes, but they actually are. And we hear these all the time. So this is one. Kol hakavod. Kol hakavod literally translates to all the honor, but it's best described as good job. Kol hakavod, like a lot of these, can also be used sarcastically, right? So the classic one, for example, in Israel is if someone accidentally drops something or breaks something, particularly that has a very shattering sound, people will often scream very sarcastically, if not a little nastily, l'chaim, right? Because what are they referencing? They're referencing a glass being shattered at a Jewish wedding, even though you shouldn't, because the idea is you're commemorating something sad. We don't need to toast something positive on that. But regardless, that's people's connotation. If a waiter or waitress or someone at their home accidentally breaks a glass, you'll hear people say l'chaim. It's a little mean, but however you undo it. Kol hakavod is in the same vein. You can absolutely say kol hakavod and be absolutely genuine and authentic about it and being positive. You can also say this, and again, tone is everything. Similar to English and other languages, has a lot of meaning. Um, I get into a lot of things with people, relatives and otherwise, who think, that classic line of it's not what you said, it's how you said it. Tone is important, folks, when you're talking and communicating. So here is the same thing. Kol hakavod is positive. Oh, kol hakavod is very sarcastic. Okay, so context and tone can change the meaning of what you mean by these. Mazal tov is another one. First off, in modern Hebrew, listen to how I pronounce it. It is not what you oftentimes transliterate as Mazel. That is a pronunciation that's closer to Ashkenazi Hebrew and their accent. In Hebrew, again, remember, accent is on the last syllable. Mazal tov, right? So make sure that that's an ah vowel, two ah vowels, ah. Mazal tov. Okay. You can say the other way. It's perfectly all right, but just understand in modern Hebrew, the standardized way to say it is mazal tov. Okay. And that simply means congratulations. Another word that means congratulations expression, but you may not be as familiar with this, is bisha'a tova. Bisha'a tova is what you say to someone, congratulating them on something that hasn't happened yet. So the classic example is in Jewish tradition, we don't normally announce when someone is pregnant, right? We even have the expression in English, is expecting. Expecting what? We don't say it out loud. The same idea here that in Jewish tradition, we understand how difficult and challenging pregnancy can be. And so it's one of the reasons why typically women don't have baby showers and don't fully announce that they're expecting, or they'll say they're expecting or not say out loud what they are expecting, even though it's understood. And people will wish them bisha tova. Or for example, you are going in for something that's almost sure to happen. It just hasn't happened yet, like a pregnancy, like even a joyous occasion like a wedding, or you're waiting for the acceptance letter for a school or for a job. You know it's coming, it just hasn't come yet. If it hasn't been completed, you'll say bisha tova. You'll wish someone bisha tova. If it has happened, mazal tov, right? It's the reason why at a wedding, you would say mazal tov. If someone has already given birth, mazal tov. If they have not given birth, bisha tova. The next one is more religious. Okay. Bisha Tova is already in a more observant spectrum. The next one is very much so. Yishal kocha or yishal kochech. Again, if you're coming from other communities, you pronounce this differently. In modern Hebrew, this is how you can pronounce it. Yishal kocha, kochach, kochacha, or kochach, or yishal kochech. Okay, either one means good job. It is more religious in nature, so you're not going to use this for people who aren't necessarily religiously observant. At least you don't know that. If you want to wish someone good job, you can always say kol hakavod or mazal tov. You're not going to use yishal kochach or yishal kochech, yishal kocha or yishal kochech for just anyone. Okay. Another one, which is a beautiful word, it's unique to Hebrew. I don't know of many other major languages that have this term, is titradesh. Titradesh, you would say to a male, titradshi to a female, titradshu to a group of people. It's said, as it's written here, said to someone after doing something new. It translates as best to may you become renewed, or maybe you become new again. Right. And the idea is if someone gets a haircut, if someone buys something, like even a small purchase, or they've just done something for the first time, or they've done something for after a long time, you would say titradesh. You would wish them titradesh to a male, titradshi, female, and so forth. A really nice way just to recognize that someone has done something new for themselves in particular. Okay, it's a very nice toast or a blessing to someone. The next two are Arabic in origin and like a lot of slang, but also remembering that the vast majority of Jews in the modern state of Israel come from Arabic speaking countries, originally several generations ago, if not recently. Arabic is a big part of everyday Hebrew as well. These are two great ones. Sachten. Sachten means good job. And it comes from the Arabic word for health. And it has the dual ending. Just like in Hebrew, we have ayin at the end of a word, so too do they have in Arabic. So sachten is like double health. Literally translates to double the health, meaning good job, all the best to you. Okay? It's the equivalent of kol hakavod. And then there's mabruk. Mabruk, or in the original Arabic, mabruk, comes from the same root in Arabic as it does in Hebrew of bracha, right? So it means blessed, and it translates to congratulations, right? You can further say it mabruk alek to a male, mabruk alik to a female, just like you would say in Hebrew uh, to a woman, to uh, yitbarech alecha is essentially the equivalent there. But this is very much understood. Not only is it understood, there are many wedding songs because so many Jews, the majority of Jews in Israel come from Arabic-speaking countries, that there are a lot of wedding songs, particularly from North Africa, that are used in at weddings that are all called Mabruk Alek. Right? Very much understood. Congratulations. Again, the vast majority of these can be used positively or sarcastically. Tone and context are important. And then finally, Ba'atzlacha. Ba'atzlacha means good luck. You would say this to someone before they take a test, before they go into a job interview, before they do anything monumental. Good luck. Ba'atzlacha. It comes from the verb lahatzliach, to succeed. So Ba'atzlacha, may you do this with success. Okay. Let's move on to some other words. We're going to move on to one that's in an ambiguous level, and then we're going to actually create our own blessings and wishes, and yes, curses too. So this one is a very important one, which I've encountered before. I'm sure all of you have heard before in Israel. This is that edge between positive and sarcastic, if not downright a curse, is in Hebrew to a male, tiyeh bari, or to a female, tiyeh bri'ah. Okay, this literally translates to may you be healthy. And that sounds lovely, but it's not always lovely. Most of the time, it's actually meant as like, may you have your health because you're going to need it, right? This is the equivalent in Yiddish to sei gesund, or for those of you, my fellow Americans, this is the equivalent of bless your heart, right? You say bless your heart because you need the blessing. right? The same thing here. If someone wishes you tia bari, you might want to do whatever you do to ward off the evil eye. It's not always the nicest thing to say to someone, whether you're the recipient of it or you say it to someone else. Okay, so for example, this came up the other day. What are the right things to say during a condolence? If someone says that they're sick, we've gone over how to wish someone good health before. We have all sorts of things like Talgish Tov, feel well, Hachlama Mehira, you have a speedy recovery. The more religious in nature, Refuah Shlema, a complete recovery. Don't wish someone who's sick, Tia Bari. That doesn't sound right. That sounds like hold on to what little is left of your health because you're going to need it. Don't wish that just because in English it sounds right, right? We have other forms of that. We've gone over it in the past. That's what our YouTube playlist is for. This one is in a murky middle place. Be careful with this, whether you're saying it or receiving it. Okay, now we have a whole bunch of ones that we can construct on our own, which are really important. And we're going to get back to this in a minute as we talk about the first holiday that's quickly approaching. And this is a great introduction to it. In Hebrew, whether it's related to a holiday or not, if we want to articulate a wish, whether positive or negative, there's a very simple formulation to do it, which is we take the prepositional prefix she, which is short for ashel, meaning that, and then we use the future tense, right? In the first case, anachnu, we, or in the next row, he, she, or they. This is only used in the first and third person. If you want to wish someone directly something, you're simply going to use the command tense. And we've done a whole other class on command tenses. That's why it's not here. You'll see a little bit in a minute about that. But otherwise, you'll just use the straight up imperative form, the command form. But when you want to wish either upon ourselves or upon a group of people or a third person, you're going to use this formulation, the prefix she plus the future tense. So we're going to go through some of these in a little bit. One way that you can wish someone a good year ahead, שנזכה לשנה טובה יותר, right? May we merit a better year ahead, right? That's how we would use this. שנזכה, lizkot is to merit or to win in modern Hebrew, and we simply conjugate it for the future tense, first person plural, we, שנזכה. Okay? Same thing with third person, excuse me. May he do something, may she do something, may they do something. You're just plugging in whatever verb it is that you hope will happen in the same formulation. Okay. Now, I did say there were curses. I'm not going to write out the curses. If you want that, you can email us directly. Okay. But if you want to have a choice word for someone, this is how you're going to do it. You're going to use the command form, second person, right? For male is lech, female is lechi. Both of them are from the verb lechet, to go. So as in go blank. Okay, you can figure out where this goes. But if you tell someone to go, it's usually a reciprocal thing to do it themselves. You can look up those words yourself. I promise you, you'll find them in any dictionary, or any person under the age of pretty much any age looks up those words almost automatically, right? Great one there. Another way, you can use the possessive, right? In Hebrew, right? In present tense, yesh li, right? I have. But in the past and the future tenses, when we want to do possession, we use the verb to be, and then followed by the indirect object pronoun, as you see here. Sheyeh lecha or shetiyeh lach or shetiyeh lecha. What is going to happen here is the following. The first word is the verb, right? May it be, either sheyeh or shetiyeh. That changes based on the gender of what you're wishing them to do. For example, if you want to say to someone as a possessive, may you have good health. Shetia lecha briut, right? Briut is health. Shetia lecha briut. Shetia is the feminine form of the verb in the future tense because briut is feminine. Lecha, however, is the object masculine, right? So I'm wishing to a male when I say shetia lecha briut. I'm wishing to a male, may they have good health. Okay. If I was wishing it to a female, shetia lach briut. Remember, we covered prepositions and suffixes and prefixes a few weeks ago. This is where it comes into place. But the verb here is relating to whatever you're wishing someone. May you have blank. Okay. Let me make it a little bit clearer so you understand how this is possessive. It's that she at the beginning, the may. And then we use the possessive, how we create possession in the future, right? May you soon have something. Okay. Long live. For those of you who are in the United Kingdom or a Commonwealth country, Yechia Melech. Long live the king, right? For those of you who are perhaps more on the left of the political spectrum, Tihi Mapecha. Long live the revolution. Or Tchi HaMapecha, right? Long live the revolution. Yechi and Tchi, male and female, all come from the verb lichiot, to live. And they translate to long live. And then finally, a great example from another contribution from Arabic is the article ya. Ya is when you are speaking directly to someone in Arabic, you precede their name with ya. So if you were speaking to me in Arabic, you would say Ya Jay. It's understood I'm speaking directly to you in that context. So if you want to bless someone or even curse someone, you can include this. So for example, you wanted to say to someone, what a king you are, right? In Hebrew, we like to use big grandiose words to describe someone we like. Melech, king, Nasich, prince. So if I want to call a friend in a very palsy-walsy way, you prince you, ya nasich, right? Ya nasich, ya nasich. Okay, that's where this term comes from. Okay, three more, and then I want to explain it in a very specific religious context. These three all translate to may it be, and they are used interchangeably. Some of these are used on their own, and some of these are used at the beginning of a sentence. Mi ten is almost always at the beginning of a wish. Okay. Me 10 is one that's always used at the beginning of a sentence. May it be. These don't have any religious connotation whatsoever. Me 10, Luihi, and Halavai. These can all be said without any religious connotation necessarily. Luihi can be said at the beginning or end of a sentence. Halevai also can be said at the beginning or end or simply on its own. If someone says, sheye shaket hashana, or sheye shaket hashavua, may it be quiet this week, right? It's that using that same form, sheye, may it should be, it will be, shaket, quiet, hashavua, this week, and you can answer halevai, may it be so. Okay, this is the same as in the religious expression Bezrat Hashem or Imirtze Hashem. I didn't include those here because I know many of you know those, and those you can easily look up. Halavai you may not be as familiar with, but all three of these may it be. Okay, finally, before I get to our great example that's only a few days old, I want to talk about how this all relates to Rosh Hashanah in particular. Rosh Hashanah is the start off of our holiday season. Some people say it's already started earlier with the Slichot services. Let's focus on the holidays. Wednesday night, both in Israel and around the world, many people will partake in what we call the Seder Rosh Hashanah. If this is new to you or you've never done it before, I highly encourage you to try it this year. I'm actually going to show you an example of a great resource online that can help guide you through it. The idea is after you do the traditional beginnings to a Jewish ritual meal, kiddush, blessing said over wine, Amotzi said over bread. Many communities will eat a series of auspicious foods. And the idea is you intake what you want for yourself and the people around your table for the year ahead. If this doesn't sound familiar to you folks, if you eat apples and honey, you're doing the exact same thing. The only difference is this is many, many more things to eat than just apples and honey. Some people do a whole meal course just around these. Some people incorporate these foods throughout the meal and don't just stop at the seder. But the idea is that before you eat each of these foods, you give a toast. It's not another blessing. It's not another bracha because you've already done that. And ritually speaking, you don't need to do any more at the time. Instead, you're giving a toast because the idea is we're eating what we call simanim. Siman is simply a sign in modern Hebrew, but simanim is also something auspicious. Right? And it's specifically auspicious foods that are mentioned already in the Talmud and then are used throughout Jewish history that come with uh, good luck for the year ahead. And they usually fall into two categories. One is they look like something that's auspicious, something that you would want to eat that you otherwise want in your life, or it's a word play. And the example I'm going to show in a little bit is a great use of Hebrew wordplay that is really integral to Israeli society and in general. Okay. Um, sorry, just 1 minute. Okay. Um, all of these, before you eat one of these things, whether it's apples and honey or some of the other examples, such as pomegranate seeds, carrots, leeks, beets, dates, fish heads, lamb eyes, all sorts of other ones, pumpkin, fenugreek, black-eyed peas. All of these will begin with a toast. And the toast goes like this. Yehi ratzon melefanecha, may it be your will. And then it's referring to God. I blanked over that bit. She, right? It's that she again. And then each one of these is going to be one of these. She, future tense, we, or future tense, he, she, or they. Because some of these are about us in a positive sense. Some of these are not so positive. So, for example, when we get to the one for beets, right? Beets, the Hebrew word is selek. Selek is the same root for the verb to get rid of, to throw out. And the idea is that we are toasting when we eat beets, we're wishing that may our enemies be vanquished, may they be thrown out. Shesalku oivenu. Okay, there's a whole series of these. I'm going to show you one resource, and we'll be sure to send you this link as well in the summary of today's class. This is from the iCenter, which is a great resource for both Hebrew, Jewish, and Israeli education. This is the one that is said over carrots. Okay, in Hebrew, gezer is a carrot, and you see here it says Yiretzom elefanecha, Hashem Elokeinu ve'Elokei avotenu, שתקרא גזר דיננו, שתקרא רע גזר דיננו, ויקראו לפניך זכותנו ובחירותנו. May it be your will, Lord of God, that our bad decrees be torn up and our merits and blessings be proclaimed, right? Gezer has the same root as the word gzar, decree, right? And so the idea is we're eating carrots, reminding ourselves that hopefully the decrees will be torn up. And we're doing a word play on the word gezel. We also eat carrots. Why? Because carrots, when you cut them into coins, look like coins. They're that color, right? So the idea is we're not just ingesting something that looks auspicious, we also has its wordplay that reminds us of things we want to ensure for the year ahead. Okay, great series on these. So there's a whole bunch of these. Like I said, there's ones for beets, there's ones for dates. These are some of the classic ones that are already mentioned in the Talmud and they're used up to this day. Black-eyed peas is a classic one. There's a word that's used in the Talmud, rubia, that often gets pronounced as lubia. Lubia is the term we use in more contemporary society to mean certain types of beans, including black-eyed peas. The theory is the American South eats black-eyed peas on the civil New Year's as it was a tradition either taken from us or it was widespread in the region to eat black-eyed peas for the new year. Fenugreek is also a very auspicious herb that's often translated as rubia, pumpkin, leeks, all sorts of different foods. We're going to send you that resource. What I want to share with you now in the little time we have left, and before I answer your questions, is the following. Because we talked about last week, this is a time of year when many stores have big sales. People are obsessed with finding deals because they're hosting big family dinners. Even the most non-observant Jews will be having a big meal or be attending a big meal Wednesday night, right? The start of Rosh Hashanah. And so shopping and finding good deals and getting ready for the holiday season is really important. So this is an ad that just came out 2 days ago. This is also a very friendly reminder to all those who ask for a spreadsheet in advance. This is the reason why we do not send it out. One of the reasons why is because we are constantly updating and evolving what we teach. That's what makes Cafe Oleh so revolutionary, is that we are not using old antiquated books. We are creating the curriculum as we speak, as we're experiencing Hebrew, as we're living as full-time Israelis. This came out a few days ago. This is the holiday ad on TV and online for Tiv Tam. Tiv Tam, if you're not familiar with it, is a line of gourmet markets in the center of the country that are notorious, not notorious, they're also well known for being both open on Shabbat and holidays and having a large non-kosher food section. That's what makes, and I want you all to focus and listen to me very carefully before you start coming after me in the comments. Listen to the words. We're going to go through it frame by frame after we watch it once. This is what makes this ad so special and so Israeli and so positive, is because even though all the things that Tiv Tam is notorious for, they still put out this ad, which is really special. Okay, listen first, and we're going to go through it together. And you're going to listen at the very least, if not read the subtitles at the bottom, and you'll understand what we were talking about with those simanim, the auspicious foods to eat, and how they are phrased in our tradition. So give me just 1 second to make sure that you can hear it. There we go. Okay, we're going to watch it once, and then we're going to go through and translate it together.
ברכות לשנה החדשה. גזר שיגזור עלינו בשורות טובות. סלק שיסתלקו אויבינו. ריבס שלא נריבס לעולם. תלה שנתעלה על עצמנו. מינוט סטייק שנבחרי העם ישמרו על המינוט. שומר שנשמור שבת וחג, מי שרוצה. מי שלא, אנחנו פתוחים. גם באונליין. שנה טובה מטיב טעם. ראמן.
27 seconds. This is a brilliant, only in Israel commercial. Let's go through it moment by moment. Brachot lashana chadasha. Blessings for the new year, right? And you can already see you have apples in the front, immediately catching people's attention. This is for Rosh Hashanah. The barrel in the middle has got honey, really getting people ready. This is also, by the way, as it seems at the bottom left, Saatchi and Saatchi, one of the world's premier ad agencies that also happens to be Jewish, put this out. So even more, they get it. Gezel, right? We just talked about carrots, right? They're talking with, we know that's an auspicious food. Gerets. Sheigzor aleinu besorot tovot. May be decreed on us. Again, Gezel and Yigzor have the same exact shoresh, the same exact 3 letters. Gimel Zayin Resh. Sheigzor aleinu besorot tovot. May it be decreed upon us. Sheigzor aleinu besorot tovot. We talked about this expression last week. Only good news, only good tidings. Selek, right? Beets. Sheistalku oivenu. May our enemies be vanquished. May they be kicked out, right? And how is that best illustrated? Right? 2 people helping each other out with opening what often can be very infuriating at the store, a plastic bag. Okay, next one, ribs. Obviously, that's not Hebrew, but listen to the wordplay just as we're doing it in Hebrew. They do it in English, ribs, Obviously, tzlaot in Hebrew, but they're talking about, in this case, lamb ribs.
שלא נריב.
Shelo narivs leolam. This is a very clever wordplay because the word is ribs. They're talking about the food that we eat ribs. Shelo narivs leolam. That we may not fight, ever fight. The verb in Hebrew lariv, lariv is to fight. Nariv is that we may not. Shelo nariv leolam is how we would simply say that we may never fight. But because we're doing it over ribs, shelo naribs leolam. Okay, clever wordplay.
לעולם. תעלה.
Taleh, lamb. Shenit aleh al atzmenu. Lehit aleh, it comes from the same verb as la'alot, which we all know here. La'alot, to make aliyah, but also to ascend. May we ascend ourselves, literally, may we bring ourselves up. Shenit aleh al atzmenu, right? And what do they do?
שנתעלה על עצמנו.
Right? Do good on ourselves, to raise ourselves up, to lift ourselves up, as it were. To praise ourselves is also a way to think about this. Lehit ale, nit ale is also to maybe be praised. Okay, and the idea is that they're sharing the meat, the lamb in this case, right? All these auspicious foods, and the idea here is not just that the foods themselves are auspicious, but we're doing toasts on it. This is something that's often not understood in diaspora, perhaps, but is definitely understood in Israel. This is a happy period, folks. Even with everything else going on in our lives right now in Israel and in the Jewish world, the holiday season, even the days that we call Yamim Noraim, the high holidays, or in Hebrew, the awe-filled days, are happy occasions. This is a happy meal we're supposed to have on Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippurim is meant to be a happy holiday. At least when you watch it and observe it in Israel, it has that feeling. And it's the same idea here. Upbeat music. People are getting ready for a really big meal with friends and family.
מינוט סטייק שנבחר.
This one's a little political. You're going to let me explain it without assuming that I'm being political here, right? Minut steak, minute steak. Shenivcharei ha'am, may our elected officials, those who are literally chosen by the nation, meaning elected officials,
הרי העם ישמרו על
yishmeru al aminut, right? The play is on the word minute. Aminut. Aminut is faithfulness, reliability, trustworthiness, right? May our elected officials watch over their accountability, their faithfulness, their loyalty to the people, right? Watch what happens when this goes on. Again, this is I'm not putting any political spin on anything. You're just watching this commercial.
שנתעלה על עצמנו. מינוט סטייק שנבחרי העם ישמרו על המינוט.
Right, you get the connotation there. I hope you get it.
שומר
Shumar. Shumar is the Hebrew word for fennel, but it also comes from the same root that we get the word lishmor, to watch or to guard over something. Shenishmor Shabbat v'chag. May we observe Shabbat and holidays. And this is a play because I just told you about Tivtam.
שמור שבת וחג מי שרוצה.
Whoever wants. מי שרוצה.
מי שלא,
Whoever doesn't. מי שלא. אנחנו פתוחים. We are open. Right? Again, that's referring to one of Tivtam's notoriety is that they're open on Shabbat and holidays, right? And so it's toasting people. If you want to celebrate and observe Shabbat and the holidays, you do you. If you don't, that's okay, and we're also open.
אנחנו פתוחים, גם באונליין.
We're open, and we're also online.
שנה טובה מטיבטה.
Shana tova mitivtam. May you have a good year ahead. And then very much at the end,
Amen.
at the end of each of these toasts, it's traditional not just to say amen, but to eat the food. So it's again another great play on word. Instead of amen, ramen. Very cute, amazing commercial. Again, even though it is a for-profit company, how Jewish that commercial is, how open and inclusive that commercial is for a company that's often much maligned on both sides. Either that they are trying to be more provocative towards people who are observant, and people who are observant saying that they are being way too provocative and too out there. This is a really great commercial trying to bring people together through commonalities, especially ahead of Rosh Hashanah. With that, I want to stop, answer some questions in the Q&A, and I'm going to talk about, I'm going to do a few questions right at the top of the hour. I'm going to talk about the next week of classes. A few times you explained how to turn a verb into a noun or adjective. Could we have a class where we explain how to do that? We do have a class on that. Again, YouTube is your friend, folks. If you can't find a previous lesson, just go to youtube.com, type in Cafe Oleh and any of the search words you're looking for. We have a whole class on this. I think it's called How to Create New Words in Hebrew. Okay, and we have a whole lesson on turning nouns into adjectives. So highly recommend watching that, but we have done a class on that rather recently. When watching YouTube videos, how do I know which one is the one for beginning level easiest? Very easy answer, folks. We only have one class a week that we record for YouTube. And it is this class you're speaking right now. So we try to focus and be inclusive for all levels, but with particular focus to beginners. Okay, so we try to approach this assuming you aren't fluent, right? If you were fluent, you wouldn't need this class today. You would know all those verbs. You would know most of that vocabulary, and you would have the context in which Hebrew is used, right? But yes, all of our classes are open to everyone with a particular focus on beginners levels. Is it pronounced kol hakavod or kol akavod? Great question. In modern Hebrew, like a lot of other languages, right? There's how it's spelled and how it's supposed to be pronounced, and what is the vernacular, the everyday speech. So yes, it's kol hakavod, but in everyday Hebrew, you're going to hear people say kol hakavod. It all elides together. It's not that it turns into a different letter, it's just how it's pronounced. Kol hakavod is easier also to pronounce than kol hakavod. If you were to say kol hakavod, you're not incorrect, but you are giving someone the signal that you are learning Hebrew. Kol hakavod, one word, kol hakavod. Think of it like kola kavod. Kola kavod sounds more like a native speaker. I'm assuming mitzapeh is the PL form of the verb litzpot. Correct. Litzpot means to watch, as in to watch TV, to watch a film. Litzapot means to expect. They both have the same exact root, sadi peir hey. This is an example of someone at a more advanced stage who knows what the binyanim are. If you don't, you still understand that the verb means to expect. Hearing in my neighborhood shkoyach, is that a play on Yiddish pronunciation? Yes. Again, in modern Hebrew, yishar kocha, yishar kochech means good job in a religious context. Remember, folks, not all religiously observant people in Israel come from an Ashkenazi background. I understand that many of us come from that, especially from North America. It is the opposite in Israel. There are plenty of neighborhoods where the vast majority of people come from an Ashkenazi background, but the majority of Israeli Jews, come from Middle Eastern, North African backgrounds. So remember, when you're trying to pronounce things, remember, is this a Ashkenazi pronunciation or modern Hebrew pronunciation? Not as a judgment, just is my random neighbor going to understand me or not? This is a great example. Shkoyach is Yiddish. It is not Hebrew. It is the Ashkenazi pronunciation of Yishal Kocha, and then further turned into an expression that's understood by Yiddish. But if you were to go out randomly into Israel, unless someone has context into what that word is because they watch a TV show like Shtisel or Shababnikim, they aren't necessarily going to know what shkoyach is. So please keep that in mind. Not everyone does this. The reverse is also true. You see a lot of people who come to Israel for Pesach, and I always bring this up each year, who go into a supermarket and get very frustrated and start even screaming. I've heard individuals screaming at the top of their lungs the week before Pesach, before Passover. Why does everything have, and they pronounce the Ashkenazi pronunciation of kitniot, right? The legumes and the other things that Mizrahim and Sephardim eat on Pesach, but not Ashkenazim by tradition. Israel is a much more diverse place, perhaps, than you expect. This is a great example. What is the proper response to someone who has given you a blessing? A great question. I'm going to write this even in the thing because that is a great question. If someone gives you directly one, right? Not necessarily to everyone. You have three different options. You can simply say amen. You can say in a much more observant way, Ken yehi ratzon, may it be God's will, may it be ratzon, or you can say, and I'll be sure to put in the vowels before we send this out. Or you can say to a male, bekarov etzlecha, or to a female, bekarov etzlech. This literally translates to some people as soon by you. This is often how it's translated by more observant people in English, but it means just as you wish it to me, I wish it to you as well. Okay, so if you're wishing someone good luck on something or good health or something like that, you wish it to them as well, right? So this is simply amen. This is may it be so, religious, and bekarov etzacha. Best way to translate this is right back at you, right? Easy way to do it. Great question. Thank you for asking it. Can I just say, if I want to say to someone to go to hell without worrying about gender and number? No, you cannot. You have to say, you have to give an action. When you are cursing or blessing someone, you need to have an action, right? You can't just say, there are Hebrew curse words, right? And expletives. That's just a singular word. But hell is not that. Just like in English, we say go to hell, right? If you want to say that in Hebrew, because someone's asking, I'm saying it, it's to a male, lech le'azazel, to a female, lechi le'azazel. Okay, that's how you say it. You have to have the verb, just like in English, go to hell. You can't just say to hell. That doesn't make any sense without any context. Okay. Is siman also used for a street sign like in English, or is it a different word? Siman is a sign. It's not a sign as in, I mean, a sign like a symbol. Okay. A street sign is a shelet. Different words, but great question. Someone is that they hadn't heard of beats as a simanim before. Um, um, okay, someone is asking, while it's important to understand minor words in all surrounding languages, perhaps keep it for a different program. What you call minor is not minor. Okay. Most Israelis know what sachten is. Most Israelis know what mabruk is, and the other words that aren't Hebrew here. We're talking about modern Hebrew, which includes other languages. We've done several language courses on slang, and we'll continue to do so. What may be minor to you is mainstream for most Israelis. Achla and sababa, for example. Those aren't minor words from surrounding languages. Those are integral words that are used in major brands in Israel. So I do push back on that. As we say in Hebrew, ani cholek al ma she'amarta. עם כל הכבוד. Okay. Is ichulim also used for best wishes? I received a card saying with that. Yes, ichulim simply means wishes. Ani me'achel lecha shana tova. I wish you a new year. That's a very literal way to do it. I didn't include that here because it's a literal translation. It's not all the other ways we can think of giving a blessing or a wish. All right. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to tell you about next week's class. But first off, thank you all, Toda Rabba, for joining. Next week's classes are as follows. Obviously, Wednesday, we are not going to have our Cafe Oleh conversations, our conversation-based class that we would otherwise do because it's Erev Rosh Hashanah. It's Rosh Hashanah evening. Next Monday is October 7th. In Israel and around the world, Jewish communities will be commemorating it throughout the day. Our normal class coincides with the major commemoration event, which will be taking place, sponsored by the families of those who were kidnapped, murdered, injured on October 7th. And then it's followed by the governmental ceremony. We are going to start again at 9 p.m. local time next week, where we're going to talk about October 7th in the sense of what are the words we need to describe it 1 year later. You remember that immediately following October 7th, we had a series of classes that dealt with not only describing it, but also describing ourselves and how we're feeling. We're going to address some of that, and we're going to hopefully be able to incorporate clips from the two ceremonies as they take place live. Instead of telecasting it live, I'm going to glean from YouTube and other sources some clips so you can not only watch it in advance, and I highly recommend for all of you. The family event will take place at 7 o'clock, and the other one will take place just afterwards around 8:30 or 9 o'clock. I highly recommend to watch at least one of them on your own and then join us together where we're going to process it together. So at least you can practice a little of your Hebrew on your own and then join us. The following Wednesday, I highly, highly recommend to everyone on this call who has never joined us for a Cafe Oleh conversation before to please join us a week from Wednesday. A week from Wednesday, we'll come back and we are going to do something that we've done in the past, but takes on even more importance in this time period between not just Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim, but October 7th and Yom Kippurim, which is how to engage in civil conversation in Hebrew. Yes, for all the stereotypes there are about screaming and yelling, and unfortunately how acrimonious we have become in Israeli society in the last period, we are going to learn, practice, and most importantly, model how to have disagreements with each other civilly in Hebrew. Okay, you're going to learn how to express an opinion and how to, instead of replying, you are a bunch of fill in the blanks, which happened to us even last week as I was explaining this very topic. And I thank them for the illustration. You're going to learn how to be adults. You're going to learn to be civil. You're going to learn to be patient. You're going to learn how to disagree as civilized human beings. I know that may not be what you see around us, unfortunately, in Israeli society. All the more reasons that we will be, as we say in Hebrew, a dugma ishit or a dugma mofet, a shining example of what to do and what not to do. So again, next week, October 7th, the Wednesday, how to engage in civil conversation. Until then, Shetiye lanu shana tova, or as many people are saying, shana tova yoter. May we not only have a good new year, an even better year than we've had. I hope you all, wherever you are this holiday, family, friends, on your own, in Israel, abroad, it's meaningful. You find meaning in it. And we'll see you all next week on the other side of the new year. Until then, stay tuned in your email and on YouTube for a copy of this class. And lehitraot v'shana tova. See you all very soon.